Michelle and I have worked with hundreds of couples, and oftentimes there's resistance to change initially until they start to recognize the impact of some of their poor behaviors. And then they're very hungry and they want tips and they want tools and they want suggestions and things that they can try. So I'm going to outline 4 post-decision techniques that you can use. Number 1, focus on behaviors to change. So once you've identified what those behaviors are, now you can outline specific action steps and you can keep people accountable to what they commit to on those action steps. And focus on positive behaviors. You can try to reduce the negative, like trying to reduce criticism, but also replace that with a positive behavior like affirmation or compliments, maybe even spending time together. One couple that we knew were very caught up in criticizing each other and stonewalling. And so we just suggested, why don't you guys spend some time together? And they just spent time having fun. And that actually reduced the criticism because they felt better about their relationship with one another. 2, change thoughts that are hurting you. You actually can change the thoughts. If you can recognize what they are and some of your assumptions underneath it, you can actually change them. It says in Corinthians to take every thought captive to Christ. And God will empower this. God will help us to be able to do it. So for example, let's assume that someone is criticizing me or my wife is criticizing me and I assume that they're intentionally trying to hurt me. I'm going to react in a certain way. If I can look at that thought and change that into my wife has good intent, I'll react differently. And then when she criticizes me or I feel she's criticizing me, then it might be different. It will be something like, help me to understand why you said that because I don't think that you mean to be mean to me. So recognize what those thoughts are and work on changing your assumptions. 3, positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is critical. It's important to recognize the good behavior that we have and the times when we do it right. So there's self-reinforcement. You can say, wow, I handled that situation well. I didn't blow up. I listened. I slowed down. I paused. Just recognizing it yourself and doing good, positive self-talk is fantastic. And then there's spousal recognition. When your spouse does something well, say, hey, I really like the way you said that, or I really like what happened there. We didn't escalate. We seem to be doing a little bit better. And recognizing the good behavior or even the intent from your spouse will help to be able to increase your positive behavior. When we meet with couples, we want them to recognize what went well. So we'll often ask, did you have any small wins this week? Did something go really well? And we want them to see that and to recognize, yeah, we did this because that's part of positive reinforcement. One time there was a couple, their pattern was they would tend to criticize one another and it would end up in a fight and then they wouldn't talk to each other for a week. And they came back and they were very discouraged because they'd gotten in a fight and they said, well, we didn't talk for a lot of the last week. And I said, well, how often didn't you talk or how many days? They said, 3 or 4. And I said, well, but your pattern has been like a week, right? And they said, well, yeah. I said, well, that's fantastic. You went from 7 days down to 4 days. I mean, that's great. Do that more frequently. That sounds like a real win to me. Often a couple will come in and they have had just a fantastic week and they'll be very happy about what happened. And so we'll ask what went well. And we want them to recognize the positive things that they're doing. And, if it's spend time together or, we just, spoke compliments to one another, whatever it is that they're feeling good about it, we want them to recognize and we want to reinforce that positive behavior. And last, get help from friends and family. If you have some friends that can hold you accountable or to encourage you, give you support, that's fantastic. Now, mentors, of course, are part of that support network, but anything you can do to get more people around you. If you go to a small group, bring it up to the small group. Michelle had asked our small group to keep me accountable for speaking words of affirmation to her, and they did, and it helped me to change because I came every week. They'd ask me, "What have you done this week to affirm Michelle?" And sometimes I hadn't, but it helped me to recognize and encourage positive behavior. And when I did it, they were happy for me. So 4 things: Focus on the behaviors that you want to change and outline action steps. 2, change and focus on the thoughts that you want to change. So if you can start thinking better thoughts, your behavior is going to change. 3, positive reinforcement. Anything you can do to get positive reinforcement is going to help. And 4, get help from friends and family.